So welcome, Flo, and
Welcome.
so far. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Yeah, it's getting a little bit late here in Europe, but had a great day, so everything works fine. It was actually pretty good weather,
Okay.
so
So what do you mean
pretty
everything
sunny.
works fine? What's your definition of a
Well,
fine day?
I set some goals today, and I accomplished all of these goals, and so for a Sunday I was pretty productive. I like that always. That's when I have a productive day, accomplish all my goals for the day, then I'm feeling happy to fall to bed. How about you?
Okay, my day was pretty productive too, and I had a couple of goals set for myself. Why is goal setting so important as an entrepreneur?
Good question. I would say you don't get accomplish anything without goal setting. Um, it's look, you don't have to you goals basically remind you every day, depending how many times you set them, but remind you to work to work towards a direction. Without goals, you are without direction, and you get actually you get lost.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying like goals are sort of like the roadmap to where you want to get to.
Kind of, yeah. I would say that. Yes, definitely. You could say that.
Okay, so it reminds me of a
Um,
quote
yeah,
that states, a goal without a plan is just a dream.
that's right. That's right. Um, well, dreams are actually pretty important because they are the seeds of the goals, I would say. Um, Let me just ask you quickly. I'm curious. How was your goal setting routine?
I'm actually kind of old school with it. I still write my goals down because it gives it life for me.
Yeah,
I see it written on paper. So I actually will write out a plan for myself and document it somewhere. It also allows me to be more accountable because when I tend to keep things in my head, it's easy for me to step away from the most important items. So when I have it written down, I can refer to it again just to keep me honest and keep me on track.
that's right. That's right. And I wouldn't say it's old school. I would say it's necessary to write them down because a big part for me and a big problem in the past I had was I had my goals. I planned them the evening before or in the morning, but I wasn't able to keep track of all of them when I didn't write them out. When I Once I started writing them out, had a list, put it in my pocket, so I always was able to. Okay, now I got distracted. There was a distraction or something came in, interfered with my schedule, and I just could get back to my goal plan and actually go ahead with my goals where I left them. So I wouldn't say it's old school. It's necessary.
Yeah, to actually document those goals, write them down. A lot of times I think we tell ourselves I can keep everything straight up here. But I mean, at one point when I was really struggling with goals, I had and I wanted to take a moment to say, welcome, Dennis. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, welcome.
Good morning or good afternoon, based on where you are, or even good evening. At one point when I was struggling with setting goals, I actually had a wall calendar that I put up that I would write on with a dry erase marker. So every morning I would look at my goals to keep me focused on what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's it's a good strategy actually. Yeah, because I'm traveling a lot and I'm not all the time in my office. I'm doing a lot of calls during the day, so I needed handy either in my mobile or on a little sheet of paper. But that's a good strategy. If you work in office, just really big that you can't overlook that. It's a great way. Uh, Let me just ask you, how do you in which detail do you set your goals? Do you go down till okay? Do you go down till the hour, till the minute, or till just the accomplishments you want to accomplish for the day, for the week, or what's your just explain us a bit what's your strategy behind that?
Okay, yeah, it depends on the goal and what's going on in my life at that particular time. Usually it's not down to the hour, but it is down to the day. So what do I want to accomplish today to make sure it gets done? The other thing I've started doing, which is something I've seen recently, is writing a do not list. So we always do to-do list. Now I'm working on what not to do list, because it's so easy to get distracted with all the social media and things like that. So I have a list of things I won't do until I accomplish certain goals.
Okay.
For what I'm trying to do with my business right now, LinkedIn carries more weight than Facebook. So I will have a do not do list that says do not access Facebook until you've accomplished these 3 or 4 goals first.
Okay.
So, recorded a video, put an update on LinkedIn, made 2 phone calls for one-on-ones. Once I achieve those goals, then I can do an update in Facebook, because Facebook, email, those are things that will suck me in like a black hole of time.
That's right. It's right. It's most of the times you just get stuck there. You read all the news feeds and you're not that productive then yeah, that's actually, it's a pretty good point what you said actually. Nowadays social media, growth hacking for startups, or social media marketing, because if you're a small company, if you're bootstrapping entrepreneur, or a one person coach whatsoever, you can actually access to the social media and get a similar marketing opportunity than years ago, before social media, big companies only had. So it's actually a pretty good way to do so. I love it how it developed. But what I discovered a lot of times using social media, using different growth hacking methods, I discovered it just, you get easily distracted. For that, actually, you always need a certain goal line to follow to keep focused, because on social media, news feed comes up, someone texts you, another notification here, someone tweets that. There's so many distractions, and it's hard especially for starting out entrepreneur, or if you're starting out with social media, to be productive in your social media marketing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you typically use social media? I am honestly so new to social media that I'm trying to find a way to manage it as opposed to it managing me.
Okay.
That I'm trying to get to a place where I have scheduled times throughout the day where I'm doing my updates, I'm sharing content, whether it be an article or video, and doing it in bursts throughout the day, because a lot of my work, I need to go out into the field. So like right now, I'm trying to implement where first thing in the morning, from about 6:30 to 8 a.m., I try to do as many updates as I can in social media, because when 8 a.m. comes around, I'm typically in my car and I have to go in the field. I won't be back in front of my computer again until about usually 12 or 1. And then I have until about 3 or 4 when I have to go back into the field again. So I'm trying to get more strategic, I guess I would say, with how I'm using social media to get out updates, but at the same time to not get bogged down with it, because it will suck you in like a whirlpool of water going down a drain, and you'll find yourself trying to get out. Oh, hell! Kind of thing.
Good energy. Yeah, that's right. It's right. Actually, yeah, I also look. I'm maybe a bit younger than you, so I more or less, or kind of grew up with social media. So I was pretty young, or I think with 18 or something, I started with Facebook, and I grow into that basically. And so for me, it was, first of all, it was a communication platform. And as starting out as an entrepreneur, it becomes more and more marketing sales platform or business tool basically. And then you have to use it differently. What are you doing? What are you saying? It's great. That's I think a productive way to use it, just to have certain time blocks a day scheduled where you gonna accomplish what you want to accomplish. Burst out your LinkedIn articles, your videos on YouTube, whatsoever. It's a good way. Yeah, right. I would just
how do you use social media and what you're trying to do? Yeah.
How I use it?
Yes.
I basically, my day is, I starting out my day with recording a video. Then I post it on YouTube nowadays, and then I contact potential customers, clients, and LinkedIn a bit. But then I start basically cold calling. That's my day, and so I don't try to use social media that much in the morning. Just maximum 1 hour, and there has to be the video in that time block. To not get distracted, because I like to have a high level of focus and energy while doing the calls. And in the afternoon, I when I have other goals regarding social media, publish something, offer something, write an article, whatsoever, I use it also as a time block. As you said, like I just block maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, and then I get that accomplished. That's basically
you said the dreaded C word, cold calling.
Yes.
I know that you're a master of the cold calling technique. How important is cold calling to the entrepreneur?
It's very important on different ways, on a lot of different ways. Let's take aside the self-improvement factor of cold calling, but as an entrepreneur, as an bootstrapping entrepreneur, as an one-man company, cold calling is very important because it's a way, and the easiest and the fastest way to get new customers, to get also new customers and interaction, because you go out to the field directly. Nowadays, some people would say I'm wrong in that, because nowadays everybody's marketing on YouTube, on social media, whatsoever. But it's a marketing thing, and it's a one-sided approach. Cold calling gives you the other side. It's a sales way. It gives you actually a tool. It's a tool basically. It gives you the opportunity to go step ahead into the field, not only pushing out, okay, I have that to offer, I have that to offer, I have that to offer. Actually, you can also use cold calling as a tool to get information from your potential customers. You can just ask questions, do a survey, whatsoever, and get this interaction rolling. And once you, for example, establish an interaction with a customer, they know you're a person, and they know you're on another level than just on normal marketing strategies. I would say, to go back to your questions, it's very important, and every bootstrapping entrepreneur should do it. And in a big company, just look at the biggest companies, B2B companies worldwide. They all have a sales department doing cold calling. I think that speaks for itself.
So here's the question I have for you, Flo. Why do people dread cold calling so much?
What do you mean? They fear it, or what do you mean?
People have this aversion to cold calling. They'll do everything in their power not to do cold calling, like me.
Right. Okay, we're working on that, Anthony. You made some
We are.
progress. um, Look, I think everyone has that, and it's an it has like its origin evolutionary, um, because yeah, it's a fear of being rejected. Its evolutionary origin is actually once you yeah, I have to go a bit more in history, but once we were like living into small groups before we developed anything. We were living in the woods or in the caves. um, we have our group of people, maybe 20, maybe 50 people, not more, not much more, and there were other groups. And once you got rejected from the people in your group, then you lost. Then you've actually died because you can't survive alone. And so it was necessary to don't get rejected. I think that's the origin of the fear of rejection. And the fear, this fear of rejection, we have still hardwired in our brain. But nowadays it doesn't make sense anymore, because if you get rejected from one call, you can just pick up the phone and do another call. So it's not. You always have to see it in this relation, but it's on an emotional base, emotional level. That's why it still sticks in our brain.
So how do you help people to overcome that fear of the cold call?
There are different ways. For myself, I have the same fear. I used to have more fear, and the only way to overcome this fear is actually to do it cold turkey, to gain experience while doing. To get more experience, because if you get more experience, eventually your subconscious mind will realize that it's not that grave to get rejected.
I mean, nobody likes rejection, right?
Yeah. How to help someone who is really fearful? Accountability, setting goals. To go back to our beginning, setting goals, accountability, and just do it. When I started out and working in a company, doing my first cold calls, I was feared. I was like, whoa, okay, whoa. It's like a bit similar like with public speaking. It's also a common fear. And I just did it. And the more I did it, I realized, okay, it's not that great.
Okay.
You should have motivation behind that. But most of the time, the motivation is making the sale, getting the money, whatsoever. For my case, it was self-improvement. Yeah.
Okay, so two things you said that I wanted to kind of focus on. That's the second time you mentioned self-improvement in terms of cold calling. What does cold calling have to do with self-improvement? How is it related?
For me, I would say it's cold calling is, as you say, it's not easy to do, because you have this hardwired fear, kind of, or this hardwired reluctance behind it, and you always have to push yourself to do so. Even though you pick up the 5,000 time the phone and you talk with someone, it's always a kind of a fear you have to overcome. It's always a way to you have to always put yourself out of the comfort zone in a way. And as we all know, putting ourselves out of the comfort zone is where self-improvement begins. Where we learn most, where we improve most. So
I agree with that, and it ties into the second thing I wanted to point out, is that you mentioned it's very similar to public speaking.
Yes.
Cold call. And
yes.
The reality is, I think you hit it right on the head. You only get better at things by doing them.
Yeah.
And the harder they are to do, the more growth you'll get. out of actually doing them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, being an entrepreneur is one of those things where, for most of us as entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs starting out, it's really about stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things that scare the hell out of you to achieve your dream. I mean, most of my life, I worked in Fortune 500 companies, and that was a safety net. So I always had this sense of security that being an entrepreneur takes away, because I'm just kind of free falling, trying to build my wings as I'm falling down. So just in of itself, being an entrepreneur is about stepping out of your comfort zone and confronting fears and doing things that make you extremely uncomfortable. Like for me, cold calling. It is the thing I dread the most, which is why it's so important to me to conquer that, to get through that. I know it's a necessary part of growing my business, but I also want to get beyond the fear. That's what fearless is for me. Being fearless is, go ahead.
Which motivation is bigger? Building your business development, or self-improvement for yourself?
You said which one is bigger for me, building my business or self-improvement?
Yeah.
For me, it's self-improvement. If I improve myself, I'll be able to achieve almost any goal that I have in front of me, whether it's to grow my own business, to be in a happy, productive relationship. It begins and ends with me. It begins and ends with me being the best leader for myself. That's for me. It starts with me. Everything else falls into place if I improve my skill set mentally, emotionally, from a leadership perspective, then everything else grows from me.
That's right. Yeah, makes sense. For me, it was actually a similar way. When I started out doing that, I also did it just out of self-improvement to improve myself. Public speaking, yeah, as you said, is a similar thing. But just stick with public speaking this moment. You think it's the same kind of fear for public speaking, or where does it have its origin?
Well, first I'll tell you this. It's funny you would bring up the public speaking aspect. Public speaking is the number one fear of most people. They fear public speaking more than they do death. I just want you to think about that. People are more afraid of speaking in front of an audience than they are of dying. That's how frightening public speaking is. But I do think it has its roots in the same place in terms of a need of acceptance. We want people to like us. We want people to accept us. We don't want to fear that we sound stupid getting up there in front of people. And so all these things are going through your mind when you're in front of an audience. Will they like me? Will they accept me? Am I sounding intelligent? It's like the ultimate in being judged. It's almost like social media. People are driven by likes. How many likes am I going to get on that post? Are people going to comment on my video? And it really goes back to the need of acceptance that we have as a basic people for our peers, friends, and family to accept us. And I think that's where a lot of the fear of public speaking is rooted, in our need to be accepted by our fellow man.
Makes sense. Just to give some props, I saw this give props about what people think about. I think that's right. It hits it straight on the point. Yeah. What is our audience thinking about that? Are there any questions? Any thoughts? Any comments? Feel free to comment. We react. We want to interact a bit. Feel free. I think public speaking is also it's pretty important. It's beneath cold calling, and I think it fits to that. Yeah. From an entrepreneur's aspect, would you say more entrepreneurs do the steps for stepping out the comfort zone in a self-improvement way, or in a self-improvement out of the reason of self-improvement, or out of the reason of building their business?
I think most entrepreneurs start out with wanting to grow their business, or wanting to chase a dream. And I think that typically turns into self-improvement. I had a meeting on Friday with a business coach. I'm looking to hire a coach. And what she shared with me was that when she first started her business, she didn't know anything. Kind of like, I'm starting out and learning as I go along. And she said over the years, she's learned a lot about how to start a business, run a business, maintain a business. But in the beginning, she knew nothing. So I think we start out chasing a dream, wanting to grow a business, and it turns into a self-improvement path, because there's no way you can be a successful entrepreneur without improving yourself. Because you get into it and you start realizing, like myself, I knew nothing about social media marketing. I was not one to really engage with social media on a regular basis. So by default, I got better, whether I wanted to or not. I improved because I had no choice. So I think we start out chasing a dream, and then we realize we're actually getting better at different aspects of running a business, different aspects of confronting our fear, different aspects of improving our leadership skills. I think all those things are part of the bundle that goes along with being an entrepreneur.
Okay, yeah. You pointed out leadership. Do you wanna say some words about leadership, and maybe the leadership relation to sales or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I'm going to reference this book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. I am a John C. Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. So I've under his tutelage, so to speak, and I've utilized a lot of John C. Maxwell leadership information when I was in Fortune 500 companies. So I believe in his philosophy on leadership. And when I think about leadership, I always think about the greatest accountability tool out there. So what is the greatest accountability tool any individual possesses? And anybody can answer this.
The greatest is yourself.
Absolutely. The greatest accountability tool is the mirror. It starts with me, right, and my leadership skills. But in terms of being a leader and an entrepreneur, I'm working with a group of entrepreneurs right now. We have a mastermind group that we meet every week. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs think to themselves, well, it's just me. Like, I'm a sole proprietor. I own my business on my own. I sell my own goods. I don't have a team. So why do I need to work on my leadership? The only person I lead is myself. Well, that's part of the answer right there. Is you need to be the best leader you can be for yourself, number one. But number two, your growth as an entrepreneur will be capped by your leadership skills, because you cannot scale dependency. Meaning that if you want your business to grow and to truly expand, you're going to need leadership, because you need to develop a team underneath you that can execute on your vision, that will allow you to do other parts of the business while your business continues to grow, and understands and will die for your vision. If your leadership does not allow you to develop others, you'll be trying to run all aspects of your business on your own, and you'll never be able to truly grow, because you can only do so much. So I always encourage and implore all entrepreneurs, think about your leadership skills, and developing them, because you want to be able to grow exponentially. And you need a team to do that. And if you have a team, you need leadership to get them to want to follow your vision. Does that kind of answer your question, Flo?
Kind of. And I had another idea there. What do you think about the importance of leadership, especially as a solo entrepreneur, for building clients? for the interaction with your clients, especially in the coaching industry?
Well, it goes back to leadership within self, but leadership in a word is influence. So even if you're just a single individual, a sole proprietor, and it's just you and your business, like in a coaching business that I am in, I still need to be able to influence not only my clients, but any other external partners I may have. And I'll use an example. You and I, Flo, are partners. We're accountability partners. We work together on different things. I got to have strong leadership to get you to buy into my vision so that you fully support what I'm trying to do too. So it's leadership for myself, but even if you're not on my team per se, we're still peers and partners. So I need to walk the talk to get you to understand what I'm trying to achieve, as do you. So I buy into your vision of what you're trying to achieve. And then I might have others I need to work with that are supporting me. For instance, building my website. I want to be able to influence those people too, to understand my vision and to get me the product I need in a timely fashion. And that's going to require leadership. So even if it's just me, I need to be able to influence others around me. I'm in a networking group that gives me referrals. So I need to influence them to understand my vision so that they will be salespeople for me. So that when they meet somebody that they think needs coaching, they're like, wow, I know a great person that'll help you get unstuck. Well, if I haven't been able to influence them towards my vision, they're not going to be selling my services that hard for me.
Right, makes sense.
Leadership it starts with me and radiates out.
Makes sense. I just want to welcome our new guests, and I just want to repeat that if you have any questions, any comments related on this topic we are talking about, leadership, sales, or entrepreneurship, just point it out. We welcome every question, every comment, and reply to that. Anthony, I have a question. You said you used the word influence a lot, and actually, yeah, the leadership origin comes from the word influence, kind of how you explain it. How do you explain the negative connotation of influence, especially in the Western world at the moment?
Okay, so when you say negative connotation, you're referring to perhaps people who are following behind bad leadership or being influenced by not so.
I would say more influence and manipulation. Maybe it comes up with the same time. Just your thoughts about that.
Okay, so this is just my perspective on it. Is influence is influence. Unfortunately, there are bad leaders out there. They still have influence over others, and their leadership is not the best. So the people they are influencing are probably following or engaging in bad behaviors. But there are good leaders and there are bad leaders. It's unfortunate that even bad leaders are going to have influence. I think the key is, and you see this a lot in Fortune 500 companies, the key is the good leaders need to be front and center, because if there's nothing for me to follow behind, and I'm going to use a great example here, and I don't know if you have a big problem with this in Europe, but I used to live in California, and in Los Angeles, one of the problems is gangs. Well, a gang is a negative influence, but it's because their leadership is not challenged by good leadership. So it's bad leadership, don't get me wrong, but people are looking for leadership. And if there's not any good leadership for me to follow, I'm going to end up following behind bad leadership. That's how gang members recruit, is through influence and providing strong leadership. It's just not the right leadership. But when they meet someone, they quickly identify that this person wants to be a follower. So they provide them with leadership. And if that person doesn't have any other influences in their life, they're going to be swayed by the bad leadership. And I think gangs are a good example of bad leadership, but leadership is leadership. Good or bad is influence. I think the question is, how do we get more good leaders out front to offset some of the bad leadership that's out there?
That's right, yeah. Um, we can actually use that for coming back to the nowadays evolution of entrepreneurship. Maybe just come up with some examples as really good leaders. I would say is Richard Branson, for example, or yeah, maybe Steve Jobs as another example. Maybe not, maybe not. Yes, just some or recent like Mark Zuckerberg and or the CEOs of big companies, Bill Gates, or like nowadays big companies. Would you say that's a good direction where we go? In like in terms of leadership?
I think any large corporation needs to have strong leadership. And think about a sports team, a soccer team, or a football team, or a baseball team. They have all the talent in the world because athletes are paid millions of dollars for their talent. But when a team is doing bad, the number one thing they typically do is change the coach or the manager. They don't typically change all the players because every team has a lot of talent. They pay millions of dollars for this. They'll change the leadership of the team, and you'll sometimes see an instant shifting, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But that just demonstrates the need for strong leadership in front for the Bransons of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. I think about Steve Jobs, those kind of folks. If you don't have that strong leadership in front, you can have all the talent in the world on the team, and you could still be a failure. And we can probably sit here and think about all kinds of companies that had all the talent, all the potential in the world, and had the wrong leadership, and then the companies don't even exist today. So I think you need to have that strong captain of the ship to focus everybody and give them a vision to follow behind.
So, what do you say also is that every good entrepreneur has to be a good leader? Can you say that?
I honestly think that every entrepreneur needs to be a good leader. It's just, I think it goes along with that definition you gave of entrepreneur is about really self-improvement. And as I get into growing my own business, I start realizing I need to be able to influence others. If it's just partners I'm working with or peers as yourself, an accountability partner. But eventually, if my business starts growing, I need to hire people. I need to have a team underneath me. So I need those, I don't want to use the word followers in a negative connotation. I need those people who have that infectious vision. They have bought into my vision of where I want to go and are willing to support me in achieving that vision. And that's what I think entrepreneurs bring to the table. Entrepreneurs have this vision. I had this dream, this desire of doing something different, unique, greater than myself. And how do I get a group of people to buy into that?
Makes sense. Yeah, welcome, anybody. DJ Hoffen commented all about the idea innovative. I guess it was related to the big entrepreneurs I mentioned, Richard Branson, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. Yeah, maybe innovation is also a good point for entrepreneurship. Like I think there is no without entrepreneurship, without leadership, is no invention, no innovation. I think it's pretty accurate. Yes.
Let me ask you this question, Flo, because I love that piece about the idea innovation. What role does innovation play in terms of being an entrepreneur or being a good leader? What is innovation? What role does that play?
I would say it's especially in a competitive space. I would say it's and we are all in a competitive space. It's all about innovation. I think without innovation, we don't have progress. We don't go ahead. And I think that's, for me, personally, it's one of the biggest goal of life. It's growing, progress, moving on, and innovation is a big pillar for that. Yeah, definitely.
And here's what I would add with that, because innovation is very, 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 very important. And when you think about it, it also gives others permission to step out of their comfort zone and try something different. I think about the gentleman, I can't recall his name, Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
For years, they said it could not be done. Once he did it, there were a rush of people right after him that also broke the 4-minute mile. So when you're innovative and you innovate and you step out of the norm and try something unique and different and brand new, it gives permission to others to step out of the norm, to try something unique and different and brand new. When you think about all the things that we have today that didn't even exist probably 10 years ago, like a smartphone.
Yeah.
10 years ago, we were still using flip phones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
10 years ago, and I'm not even sure if tablets were out yet. I remember they laughed at the term iPad. They were like, that term is not going to catch on. When it was first developing, Apple was developing a tablet. There wasn't even a niche for tablets. It was laptops, desktops, and flip phones. And they created a new niche, but it was innovative. And I think when you open up the door to innovation, you will get a rush of people following in behind you. And entrepreneurs, to me, are people who are willing to break out of the mold and step out of their comfort zone.
That's right, and there's where innovation comes in. I read this good book. I think we we talked about it. I just can't remember the title. I'm gonna check that soon. But there was talking about the genes and business genes, and actually ideas about business concepts, as you say, your example for the iPad or for the Apple MacBook or whatsoever, something new, that are business genes more or less, and I think they reproduce each other in order to maintain themselves and keep on going, and it's just really fascinating. I think to see it at this from this level, from this point, just with this analogy for genes, because genes that are working the same way. They're also mutating always. Mutation is I think it's you can also see that as a kind of innovation. Mutation is something similar. It's at one point it's progress, but the other point is cancer. So you have to have the balance. You know what I mean? Right, and right. That's the same also with the culture. Some people are really innovative, and the other people has to be conservative to keep this balance, but still keep on moving, keep on developing, keep on tweaking, whatsoever. I think it's important for everything.
Yeah, we used to use the term calculated risk. So it's not throwing all caution to the wind, but it is stepping out of your comfort zone and fully aware what the risk may be. So what are the rewards and what are the consequences, but still moving forward with confidence to know that if I don't take a risk, I'll never be able to be innovative or creative or change anything in the world, in my life, within myself, if I'm not willing to take the risk to try something different. Complacency is like the thing that works against us the most. And it's easy to get caught in that comfort zone and wrap it around you like a warm quilt and just lay within it. We used to call it a velvet rut. It's, a rut that's so comfortable, you don't want to get out of it. And I think it is about taking a calculated risk. It's knowing what the consequences are. It's knowing that, yeah, you might fail. But that's the definition of success, is falling down and getting back up. Failure is falling down, just staying there. But it's having the confidence that I'll be able to get back up when I do fall down. And I think that's what innovators do, because people will laugh at you sometimes. What is this guy talking about? An iPad? What is that? They laughed at Steve Jobs when he came out with the term iPad. And now you look at it, tablets are a regular part of our lives today. But that's the risk you have to take, is that it may fail. People will probably laugh, but who cares? People are going to laugh anyway. Even if you're successful, people have something to say.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. I think also what you pointed out is successful people, they get up. They fail. They fail a lot of times. They fail 100 times, but they get up. Right. And failures, they don't get up. So, yeah, it's basically, and it's also to put it a bit on a sales level again. I think, yeah, there's also this stepping outside of the comfort zone, being comfortable, being in the warm or something warm. It's like you don't develop this way. But again, we are hardwired to prefer that, to save energy somehow. But we have to do it in order to move on, and in order to grow, in order to make life worth living, I think.
I mean, if you think about it, and I would love to get some comments from folks that joined us. So the folks that recently joined, welcome to the Flow and Snow Show, where we're talking about entrepreneurial matters, leadership, and sales. We're just sharing our own personal experiences as we travel down the entrepreneurial path. But we also want to hear your thoughts, comments, tips, tricks, hints, what you have to share with us. There are no right or wrong comments at this point. We're just sharing information with each other. But Flo, when you think about it and where we are today, everything that we have in our lives today was the product of innovation. It was the product of someone not being afraid. In Germany, do folks eat cereal for breakfast?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if a lot of people know where cereal came from, but cereal was a byproduct of automobiles. Because they invented the automobile, everybody used to travel by horse. Once automobiles began to grow and there were more of them in use, people were using less horses. So they had to figure out what to do with all the grain that they used to feed to horses. But that's a great example of how innovation changed our lives. In the beginning, they laughed at people who drove automobiles. And then it went from that to the point that they had to figure out what to do with all the extra grain that was available that the horses were not eating. So I mean,
we can eat it.
It's about all of us stepping out of our comfort zone. There's somebody on this Blab right now that may come up with the next great social media item or platform, or the next great cure for some disease, or the next great type of yo-yo. It could be anything, but that's how our lives improve and grow exponentially, is all of us stepping out of our comfort zones and supporting one another, which is what we're trying to do with this Blab.
That's right. Even Blab is a kind of innovation in itself. Look, 5 years from now, it was not even like possible to share this kind of conversation that easy. And now with Blab, we just go on there. It's like a Skype call, and we can just share our talk with other people. It's amazing. One good point you said, that with the cereals. Basically, that's an innovation coming from something coming from a problem, actually. You know, we had this problem. Okay, we have too much cereals. What are we gonna do with it? Let's just invent. Let's just invent cornflakes or something what people can eat. Some product, package it right, and that's actually the importance. Or do you think that every innovation, prior to innovation, there are problems? Every innovation solves problems, or can there be innovation without problems?
Yeah, I think some innovation fills a gap that we didn't even know existed. I mean, I'm kind of up there in age, so I was around in the days before the internet. I didn't sit around thinking to myself, wow, I wish there was a way that I could communicate all around the world electronically. So I think sometimes innovation creates a need we didn't even realize we had. It fills a gap that we didn't realize was there in our lives. And when it comes along, you're like, how did we ever survive without this? But I remember when I was in college, the internet was early in its infancy. I remember having to go to the library to do research. The library was like my number one tool when I was in college. And you had to find time to go to a building and abide by their hours. So if they were only open from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, I had to build my world around that. Now I do all my research right from the comfort of my home wearing bunny slippers. It wasn't to address a problem. I think the innovation grew and we realized it filled a need that we didn't even know was there previously. And then on the flip side, sometimes it's in response to an identified problem, or it's in response to other innovation. The cereal thing became a problem because of the innovation that was the automobile. So when automobiles began to grow and people were using less horses, now there was more grain in the silos. So then somebody said, how do we get rid of all this grain? So somebody else had another innovation to come up with a solution to that problem. So I think sometimes it's a domino effect.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think as you say, there's some innovation without actual problem, or without really knowing if there's a problem, and it just fills a gap what we weren't thinking about yet. And some other times it comes with a problem. When you have a problem and when you face look, I'm coming originally from a scientific background, and there's everything about problem solving. You're having problems all day long. You're trying to find the mathematics, the physics to solve this problem. But there you can see it as, I think similarly, you can see it there as well. Sometimes you have an actual problem, a mathematical problem, or let's say a business problem. You don't find new customers, and then you find a solution. But the other way, you just trying something, you're doing something, and you come up with something new, and has success. For example, 2006, 2007, when it started out with YouTube, people were using YouTube just to film something, and they just thought, okay, it's not new, it's cool, I'm gonna do that. And then it got bigger, grow bigger, a lot of people watched it, and actually it became a business tool. And these people who started out with YouTube, just refer to Elliot Hulse. He started out, I think, with YouTube 2007, 2008, something around that. And he was one of the first, and he recognized it as a business tool. And now he has, like, I don't know how many followers on YouTube. It's amazing. And there's also it's also really big. Yeah. I think there's always two ways: filling a problem, filling a gap, or filling a gap what we don't even know that's a gap. Yeah, right.
I agree with you on that, sir. I mean, I think social media has changed the world so much that it even has changed what entrepreneurship means. I think there are more entrepreneurs now, and I have no data to back this up, but I really think that there are probably more entrepreneurs in this day and age than there's ever been before because of social media and the ability to do things on your own, like publish a book, where in the past you would have needed to have a deal, a publisher, go to a publishing house. Now you can do that on your own. YouTube, you can have your own channel. Basically, you become a network executive. So it's like you have your own TV station where you can broadcast content. Now look at Blab. Blab is like having live satellite service where you can broadcast live. So it took YouTube. And again, I don't know that anybody said, well, there's a problem, we can't broadcast live on YouTube. But somebody got creative enough to come up with a platform where you can broadcast live.
Right. Yeah.
Here we are on Blab right now, where this we couldn't do 5 years ago, 2 years ago. You couldn't do this. So I think innovation is definitely a part of entrepreneur and leadership, and stepping out of your comfort zone and trying new things, and as individuals like the people that are on this Blab right now, having the courage to step out of their comfort zone and the courage to be laughed at, to try something new.
Right. Yeah. Asking questions, whatever. Yeah. Right. I think you pointed out a pretty good point. If you can say that, the importance of entrepreneurs and the importance of the raising number of entrepreneurs. What are your thoughts on that? Maybe in regards to leadership?
And this kind of is a good way to end this Blab, because we're going to end at the top of the hour. To kind of tie it back into what we were talking about at the beginning. Another part of leadership to me is having courage to go against the grain. I think when you think about the Steve Jobs and the Bransons and all those folks, and Zuckerberg and all those people, they had the courage to go against the tide, so to speak. And I think that is a part of leadership, which is why it's important as an entrepreneur to develop your leadership skills. Is you got to be able to stand firm, even in the face of ridicule and people questioning your decisions, and knowing that you have a vision that you want to execute on, and then being able to rally a team around that vision. But it's sometimes hard. It can be scary, being an entrepreneur and trying to do something innovative and creative, or trying to stake your income and your savings on this vision you have. And that goes back to leadership within self. There are many mornings I wake up terrified, but as a leader, I have to push through that fear. Being fearless is not about not having fear. Being fearless is about confronting your fear and facing your fear head on. And I think every entrepreneur out there, their heart beats a little fast sometimes when you think about everything you're trying to accomplish, in a world that advocates getting the corporate job and letting somebody else make all the decisions. And you have to make all your own decisions and do your own thing. And so, yeah, leadership requires you to be brave, to be courageous, to step out there and step off the curb, knowing that traffic is zooming by and you might get hit. But that's a part of it. That's also what's exhilarating about being an entrepreneur.
Right, makes sense. Yeah. No, I think that sums it pretty good up. I think, yeah, as you said, we are now at the end of the hour. We had a good conversation. You're always welcome. And we're going to do that more regularly every Sunday, right, Anthony?
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday, this time at 2 p.m. Eastern time, I guess. So in Europe, it's 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., especially in Central Europe. Yeah, we have that every Sunday, so you're always welcome. Join us, participate, or just listen. And I think it was a good conversation. Yeah, stand firm, innovation, entrepreneurship, the importance of entrepreneurship, the importance of stepping out of the comfort zone. That triggers basically progress. Good word. Okay, nice talking to you, Andy.
All right, so with that, we're going to end the Flowing Snow Show. This was our first episode. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back again next Sunday. Have a great day, folks.
Have a great day.